All right, it is Sunday, but it's already noon, so it's been raining, and everything's pretty wet out here. The car stayed fairly dry because it's on the carport. But I need to go ahead and get this body set down on this chassis before this afternoon because my wife will be coming home and she won't have room to get her car in here. So I need to, at least get this set down on the frame. I really wanted to go ahead and change out this rear section back here of metal. I've got the brace, which here's what's left of the brace underneath, and then I have the 10 inches of the section of the trunk floor, and I don't have the tail pan, which I was going to reuse the one from the four-door because it's pretty good, because I'm going to hand build all this right here, and everything will be butt welded without a flange. But that was kind of the idea I had. I would go ahead and remove all this and put the new piece in. The only problem is when I get to looking at this, you can see daylight through there. So this needs to be repaired before the new trunk pan goes on. That really kind of sucks because that's pretty much where part of the trunk floor goes, is across that. So all that's going to have to be hand fabbed. So, it basically turned into more work. The side's the same way. So that's all going to have to be hand built and then put in and butt welded in and then ground and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't know if I have time to do it or not. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly the new plan of attack here. That's probably going to take a full day to get, that cut out, and the new panels, I got to patch both ends, get that all finished out, weld through primed, and then put the new pieces in. So yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that in just several hours. It's going to take a little bit more than that. So I guess I'm going to have to try to just go ahead and set this down on the frame on the new body mounts, and it's just going to have to hang back here. It'll be fine, right? That's the plan. So I'll check the engine, make sure. Yeah, I don't think the engine got wet. I'm glad I had plastic here. But I'm gonna get after it, I guess. See what I can get done today. All right, it is Sunday, but it's already noon, so it's been raining, and everything's pretty wet out here. The car stayed fairly dry because it's on the carport. But I need to go ahead and get this body set down on this chassis before this afternoon because my wife will be coming home and she won't have room to get her car in here. So I need to, at least get this set down on the frame. I really wanted to go ahead and change out this rear section back here of metal. I've got the brace, which here's what's left of the brace underneath, and then I have the 10 inches of the section of the trunk floor, and I don't have the tail pan, which I was going to reuse the one from the four-door because it's pretty good, because I'm going to hand build all this right here, and everything will be butt welded without a flange. But that was kind of the idea I had. I would go ahead and remove all this and put the new piece in. The only problem is when I get to looking at this, you can see daylight through there. So this needs to be repaired before the new trunk pan goes on. That really kind of sucks because that's pretty much where part of the trunk floor goes, is across that. So all that's going to have to be hand fabbed. So it basically turned into more work. The side's the same way. So that's all going to have to be hand built and then put in and butt welded in and then ground and all that kind of stuff. So I really don't know if I have time to do it or not. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly the new plan of attack here. That's probably going to take a full day to get, that cut out, and the new panels, I got to patch both ends, get that all finished out, weld through primed, and then put the new pieces in. So yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that in just several hours. It's going to take a little bit more than that. So I guess I'm going to have to try to just go ahead and set this down on the frame on the new body mounts, and it's just going to have to hang back here. It'll be fine, right? That's the plan. So I'll check the engine, make sure. Yeah, I don't think the engine got wet. I'm glad I had plastic here. But I'm gonna get after it, I guess. See what I can get done today. All right, so I don't have enough time to patch all the stuff in the back today. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the body on the chassis with the new body mounts, and I'll just have to do it a different day. What I'll have to do is lift the body up a little bit off the chassis, and then, you know, to do all this, it's not like it has to come way up. It's nice having it out of the way of the frame to do all this repair back here, but so it's not that big a deal. But all this is going to have to be repaired first. Yeah, there's a lot of patching I got to do before I can just put that in there. So the plan is to put it on the chassis here in just a few minutes. So I've got the new body mount set here. This is Energy Suspension, and this is the number right here. It's 3.4120G. This is black. I'm not a big fan of red or blue body mounts underneath the, you know, holding the body off the frame. I just like the black. So this is for a hard top, which means it has extra body mounts, which I want because I'm going to do a subfloor in the car when I build my own floor pans, and I'm going to put an extra body mount up toward the front by the trans tunnel. So anyway, when you open your box, you get big washers, little washers, 2 square washers. You get some sleeve inserts, and then you have different cushions. Now you'll have 2 rectangle cushions that go with the rectangle washers, and then you have large diameter body mounts, and then you have small diameter body mounts. That's your 2 different sizes. These go between the body and the chassis. So these are what's going on. I'm not putting these on today. I basically am just going to have the body setting on the chassis for now, so I can, you know, get it out of the way and be able to push it, move it around. Also, these big washers go on there. So what you'll do is you'll take a cushion and you'll lay it flat side down, take a sleeve, stick in there till it stops, and then take 1 large washer and that cushion, and it'll go on like that. It has a shoulder on it, and that goes on like that, and then that big washer goes on like that. So your body actually is resting on that washer. But that is exactly how it goes. When you go to bolt it down, you will use a small body mount and a small washer. And the reason that sleeve hangs out the bottom like that is because this slips over that. So that is how it pretty much goes. Large washer between the body and the frame, and then this one will basically go on like that, and a washer there, and then when you put your bolt and your lock washer and your big washer right there, the small one goes on the bottom. So that is the way they're done right there. So I'm not going to worry about these. I'm just going to pretty much worry about the big ones. So your rectangle body mounts, the 2 you get with the washers, they go on the very front right here. These go to your forward body mount. You can see how that's rectangle shaped, but that goes, yeah, that bolt's too big for that. So I've got the proper size over here, but it goes up there like that. I need to dig out another 3/8 bolt for that. So right now I'm putting the washers on the body mounts. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is, because I got to do a bunch of structure work on this car, I want to make sure it's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to go in here and basically put where am I at? Right here. So look at the end of that brace. That brace is gone. I'm gonna clean this off a little bit. It's probably fine. Anyway, I wanted to make sure these were clear of, like, there's an old body mount shim right there. I need to make sure that's off there. Now the bolts broke off in that one and this one, so I don't really care. I just want the body, you know, resting on that, supported. But I need to make sure, well, like over here. Like right there is a big chunk of grease and undercoat or whatever that is. So I'm gonna make sure this is, I'm gonna use a scraper and clean off around that, because I want to make sure this is setting completely flat on that washer. You know, if it's got this big stuff under here, it's going to keep it up off of it, and I want to make sure it's setting flat. So that one I'll have to clean off a little bit, and yeah, I might brush on those with a scraper too. Well, the body is on the frame. It's not bolted down. It's not going to be for a little while. I just wanted to set it on there to get it out of the way. So now I can move this around. The problem I've ran into is this has those tall original style body or ball joints, and they're up against the tire, so I can't really push it. It's not really wanting to move. So I think I have some 1/4 inch spacers hanging in my shed, so I'm gonna pull the wheels off, put the spacers on, and stick those on. Now, those are just temporary, so I'm not even using these A-arms. But for now, just to get to where I can roll around in the driveway in the yard, I need something on there so it'll clear. It's just because, you know, Steve's wheels and tires are bigger than stock, so that's the reason it ran into that. I have to say, once I got it, the body set down with all the new bushings, there are quite a few body braces that are rusted away, but the majority of the braces that are still in the car, it kind of squared up the car a little bit. So, I mean, I shouldn't say it squared it up, but this door, you know, I put that jam piece in there and I gapped it to fit, and it kept that gap. So that's a good thing. And that door is actually opening a little easier. And also these braces in the floors, these were actually sticking up like this from the tension on the, from where the body mounts had sagged out and the body sagged more. These, you know, they don't have any tension on them now, so that's pretty awesome. So it's basically the whole front of the car is resting on the very forward #1 body mounts. And then there's a brace going across here, and it's actually still in pretty decent shape, and that's probably why the center structure of the car kept its shape. But I'm happy, man. So I just went in and I kind of rough measured from the trans mount to where the shifter would be, and I cut a hole in the floor. Now I don't know if when I go to stick the engine and trans in, if it's going to hit this part, because there's a pinch weld that hangs way down here. So I may have to cut more of that away, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a go on trying to get it in here, the engine and trans anyway. So I don't really like the idea of that shifter being that far forward on that hump, so I'm going to have to build like a bracket that comes, you know, bolts to this part and then comes back and then up, I guess. I'll figure something out, but I need to get it in there first. I mean, that's most important. But I guess we'll see if we can get the engine and trans in. It is in place. I got the motor mount bolts just shoved through. There's no nuts or anything on the back, so got a little bit of clearance there. Looks like it's gonna clear pretty decent. So I ended up having to cut quite a bit of the floor out to get this to go. I mean, the floorboard was so butchered up anyway up here. It looked like it had a shifter in it at one time over here, so I just removed it. But I don't know, man, that shifter might be a little more forward than I wanted. I wanted it kind of back here, but I think that's the difference in probably an S10 5-speed to like an F body or something. It's probably the shifter probably back here a little further on an F body, I'm assuming. But it's gonna have to work. I'll make it work. So, well, that's pretty awesome. I mean, you got I'm gonna build all new toe boards and all that down here, so it'll have a custom made tunnel. I'm gonna build a subfloor off of the back side of the rockers after those get replated with some thick plate. I'm just gonna do a thick piece of plate all the way down the whole rocker, all the way back here. I'll remove all the old crap first. And then once that's all plug welded in, then I will build a subfloor off of it and basically make it go around the trans. But I'm gonna add an extra body mount up here and use my extra hardtop body mounts that came in that body mount kit and put one there. That way it'll give it support in the center of the body right here. So probably not a necessity, but that's what I'm gonna do. But it is in there. That's a 5-speed and a, well, right now it's a 305, but it's getting a 350. This is just a mock-up engine. I'm happy with that. All right, guys, gonna work on the 2-door post today. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff I need to do, but what I'm gonna do right now is do some steering column work, which this is like one of the very last things I even need to worry about, but I want to do it just to mess with it because it won't take very long to patch it. And I'll run you through on a separate little video clip of that. But I'm going to modify the factory steering column. So this car is going to have it's got a 5-speed in it. This is like an NV 3500. These are not rated for a lot of horsepower, but it'll work for this deal. But anyway, I'm going to use the factory column and I'm going to modify it to where it looks better out here on the columns, or out here when the hood's up. So I'll show you that. All right, guys, you know how I am with my details and customizing and making things. So this is the factory steering column from the 4-door parts car. So anyway, this car originally came as a standard shift car, but it was column shift standard, so it was a 3 on the tree basically. Now this is the inner piece out of this column tube, and this has the levers on it. This thing was pretty crusty, you know, from here down on that column tube. This has been exposed on the car for decades without a hood on it, so this got some pretty good rust on it. But you see about this much of this when you got the hood open on the car. You can see about that much of the steering column sticking down. So I'm going to be using a hydraulic 5-speed with a shifter in the floor. So I don't need any of this, but I'm keeping the factory steering column and the factory steering box and everything. So I don't want these levers hanging up out of there. So what I'm going to do is remove those from this, which is going to be a pain in the butt. What I'm going to do is soak this in muriatic acid, just this end of it, and let it eat a lot of rust off of it, and then I'm going to pull all this stuff apart. So anyway, I'm going to not put the levers back in there. And this part right here is open. So you can see this part if you got the hood open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take parts of this old column. This is a automatic column tube that the ear is broken off of. And what I'm going to do is I made a template right there. I rolled that up and put it up inside there and traced it out. And that is the shape I need. So I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut it out with scissors, transfer it to this, cut it out. Then I'm going to cut it out, the piece out itself, and I'm going to butt weld it in here and then grind it smooth. So it'll make this column completely solid with an end on it. So that'll look good with the hood open. So right here, I've got these parts soaking in muriatic acid. This is actually the end of the column, and it's got 2 levers on it that I have to remove. Let's see if I can get these out of here without making a mess. So this is pretty much what it looks like. It has 2 big levers, and I don't need those. So I'm going to remove those, and they're not going to be in there. So I can show you on my car. Mine's automatic on the column, so I've still got the lever. But that cutout would be in the column, and it'd drive me crazy. So I am basically plugging those, and it's just going to be smooth. This is the column after the piece got put in, and it surface rusted overnight. I left it out here overnight, but I had this all cleaned off and looking real nice, but you can't even tell where I patched that with that T-shaped piece. Anyway, so now when the hood's up, you see about that much of the column sticking out of the firewall from out here when the hood's open. So at least now you won't see a cutout, which will technically be over here a little bit, but it usually has those 2 levers hanging out over here, and I didn't want any of that crap on there. And I put some ARP bolts that I had in there, so the column will look really nice after it's painted. Alright, so I unscrewed the quarter panel and put it up. So I've got to go in here and patch a bunch of stuff. I've got to patch this area right here, and I got to patch this area, like I got to hand build all this piece. Is going to be pretty intricate. And then where they had put the quarter panel on to begin with, they've done a pretty choppy job here. So I'm going to cut this off and cut it off the other car and butt weld it on there. So I've got a lot of metal replacement to do. There's a cluster of rust holes right here, and then there's a cluster up in this corner. So I went in and did my cut brush in here and cleaned this up a little bit. I need to blast it is what I need to do, but I don't really want to blast right now. It's too late in the evening. It makes a big mess, and I'll be out here in the heat trying to sweep up the ground, so out here in the driveway, because it'll get blast media everywhere. So I need to wait and do that in the morning, so I have plenty of time. But I'm just going to start one job at a time. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cut this area out from the 4-door panel, cut it out of here, and then transfer the template over and basically patch it from the 4-door piece in here. It'll be butt welded and ground, so it won't look like anything's ever been done. But the reason that rusted out is because of this piece right here, and a mouse or a rat had built a nest up in there. So anyway, it's packed full of moisture crap, and mouse and rat urine is very corrosive, and it just eats through metal, especially when it's soaked into the bedding. So that's what ate this whole little piece off here. It just wasted it, man. So I've got to hand build this piece, and this doesn't have to be completely exact. Like I could go in here and build some hack-assery patches, but I would rather try to do the best I can. So that to me is the fun of it. It's the challenge to me. But this is 2 separate pieces. This is a separate little flange that is spot welded onto this main piece. This flange is still nice. It don't have any rust on it. Just surface. There's nothing through. So what I'm going to do is blast this real good, because I can't see the spot welds very well. I think it's spot welded from this side. I'm going to go through and blast both sides of this, and I'm going to drill the spot welds out, and I'm going to remove this flange, and then I'm going to hand build this whole piece here from scratch, from flat metal. So what I'm going to do is put my step beads in my bead roller, and I'm going to basically make this out of a step bead. And this has just 2 flanges on it. It's supposed to have. So once I get that pretty much rolled in there, I will bend those. I'll make this, cut this long, you know what I mean? Then I'll go back and bend those 2 90-degree flanges, and then I will plug weld this piece back onto the new piece, and that should be damn near identical to stock. If only I could build it as fast as I just said that. Alright, so I got a piece of sheet metal. It's the same gauge as this, and I made a paper template right there and traced everything out basically, because that's no bueno. So right here you can see where I've got to cut this out, and then I'll put this in the sheet metal brake and break it, and this will have to be broke as well, basically bend it 90 degrees. So now I have to take a cutoff wheel. I'm going to cut all these slots in here, and I'm going to cut that top edge right out about it, and then go back and true it up with my angle grinder. And then that will be a replica of that. Even the flange height is the same as this. And then this piece will be able to be plug welded to the back to have its proper channel. Should work, in theory. Alright, so I got this piece. I'm sweating so bad I finally put some gloves on because my bare hands is causing this metal rust really bad. But I got the two flanges bent, and I got this all trimmed down, and I mean it looks identical to the stock one. So I've got 4 holes drilled in the original flange, and I'm going to plug weld 2 of them, and then I'm going to relocate my clamps and then plug weld the other 2. Then I'll go back with my grinder and grind the welds down smooth, and then hammer a little bit more on it, and it should be really close to stock. That should look really nice. So spent about an hour on it, but I don't really care. It looks almost factory to me. Alright, got it plug welded. Definitely penetrated. Alright, so here's the little panel after it's done. And that's kind of going off. You know, that whole end on the top and bottom's gone. Well, not top and bottom, but this whole corner's gone, so I'm just kind of estimating what I think it might look like. If it doesn't contour that in there, if it's angled or something, I can always split this and cut a notch out of the flange at the bottom and then bend this in. But that's kind of I mean, that's not bad for making it in the garage, you know what I mean? I used the step dies and the bead roller, and I stuck it in my sheet metal brake, and I got this started. I couldn't bend it completely 90 because it already had this in it. I put in it with a step die, so anyway, I got it bent up a little bit, and then I took my wide flat jaw pliers and stuck on there and finished it off. But that is, it's just like factory. There is a rubber seal piece that fits down in here, and your quarter panel actually lays on that. And I guess it's to keep, I don't know, dirt and debris and all that kind of stuff from making its way up into the quarter window regulator area. That'll work, man. That'll definitely work. I'll have to blast it again because it's already surface rusted looking in spots.